What the? Damn it again? Oh, hey. 1 second. Good morning. Yeah. Welcome back. Still a little bit early for me. Just give me a couple seconds and we'll jump cut to the next activity. Thanks. So, here we are back again in California. It's been 8 months. Jesus Jones. All right, so what have I been doing? I've been doing a lot. I finished building a couple of motorcycles, and I'll happily show you those in a little bit. With the car, I've been working on a roof panel and some other bits and bobs, and we'll get into that also. One of the things I haven't been completely forthcoming about is I made a feature film. Yeah. And for those of you that know me, understand what an epic, exhaustive, time-intensive thing that's been, and I've been working on this for a very long time. And I've shot it on film. It's a feature film about a hitman kind of deal. It's called The Fourth Hit, and it's all shot and in the can. I've produced it, directed it, wrote it. Well, I did have help co-writing it with a partner of mine, but yeah, it's in the can, and we're editing it right now, and we've had some wonderful people help us out with sound and music and everything. But yeah, that is one of the big things I've been doing. One of the smaller things also is my wife wanted a new kitchen, so there's that. So I've been working on that. And motorcycles, I can't help but mess with motorcycles. But today, we have bits and pieces that are going to be going on to the Lancia that have needed to be fixed. And, you know, stuff like, 77 to 7. So this is basically 40-something year old plastic. And it is extraordinary how well engineered some of this plastic is that has been out in the elements forever and has really held together. Really good quality stuff. Not that it hasn't needed a little bit of help here and there, which is what I'm going to be showing you. But really, so incredibly impressive for plastic to tolerate so many years being in the sun and environment in automotive application and still, you know, be basically almost like new. These are some side vent ducts from a Fiat X19, which is, I'm just going to call it the sister car to the Lancia Scorpion / Montecarlo, because that's really what it is. All in the name of increasing airflow to the engine bay and to the air intake and everything like that, and to really increase cooling air to the engine bay. I'm going to be installing these. I got these in trade for my manky old rear calipers, and they did need a little bit of help. It was kind of cracked, and you can kind of see the repair that I did there. What I oftentimes use for repairing plastics like these, plastics that actually have kind of a little bit of a texture to them, like a light texture, like a light pebbling to them that is not, absolutely smooth. We use JB Weld. However, when we're coming up with a surface that we want to match with JB Weld, I will typically put in, as kind of a supporting surface, kind of to create the mold surface, a piece of blue tape or whatever paper tape there is out there, because the adhesive on the underside of the tape, when it's printed on there, does have a sort of a pebbly texture to it, and that is imparted to the JB Weld when it dries. And so when this little piece here gets painted and everything like that, up there, you really aren't going to be able to tell the difference looking at it. And that was also the case of this rear license plate taillight panel on the Scorpion. There was a big old chunk out of it, and I had to rebuild that. And on bigger spans like that, and also for this to a certain degree, what I also will put into the mix is a little bit of fiberglass mat, and it's a little tricky to get the fiberglass mat to kind of absorb and get saturated by this thicker JB Weld, but it's worth the time because it makes it such a much stronger structural piece. And I was able to reset some of these posts to mount this piece back in, and you can kind of see that end too. And so once, let's see if you can actually kind of hear how the pebbly texture sounds versus the smooth. And it's a lot like, I mean, it's not exactly, but still, it's a pretty reasonable fix to get this all back in one piece and looking proper for the car. So I'm not going to show you how it's done because it's just kind of one of those things that you figure out on the spot. Just try and have it all kind of planned out in advance if you can, and figure it out how you're going to, what your procedure is, because when you're still dealing with sticky stuff like epoxy, the plans typically go out the window, and the more prepared you are, the better it's going to come out. Anyway, you want to see a motorcycle? Okay, so this was the motorcycle that was in pieces in the very first video. This is the second time I've built this motorcycle, this same motorcycle. First iteration was all black, and I dug it. I kind of built it for a friend, and it just ran so well I didn't want to give it up, so I kept it. But yeah, I wanted to kind of make it pretty. So I had this kind of nose cone up here. This was from an FZR 600. This tail section is also from an FZR 600 because my butt is no longer 16, 18 years old. It's a little bit older than that. And the FZR 600 seat and passenger seat are actually quite a bit larger. But so I had to graft on the rear subframe of an FZR 600, and I had to kind of specially fabricate brackets and everything like that to mount the nose cone of the FZR 600. And it just had, just big emptiness right here, so I made these lower panels out of an old street sign. I liked how the shape came out, sort of like the half fairing kind of look. You can see, some of the engine exposed and the exhaust and whatnot. And I thought it really suited the look of the motorcycle. I put an FZR 600 front end with Racetech cartridge emulators, so I could go for the bigger brake discs. All in all, it's just, a little liquid-cooled FZR 400 4-cylinder, 4-valve per cylinder. It's just a little screamer. I just love I got into motorcycling in like the late 80s, early 90s, and that's what I'm drawn to as far as looks of motorcycles. All the motorcycles now look like Transformer robots, and it seems like none of the motorcycle designers really know what they're doing, with some exceptions. Let's get back to the car. So here we are at the car. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen it out. And with the weight in back of the engine, it is starting to settle a little bit back here, but still a little too high by at least 2 or 3 inches. Yeah, and we're in still full off-road rally mode in front, because there's really no weight up there other than some little tiny stuff. So I'm going to have to do some suspension work, like we said before, but the engine is in place and it hasn't fallen out. So 8 months, that's called engineering. Anyway, I wanted to make a roof panel for this, and the racing car, the 037 Rally version, had a fiberglass panel. It was a double bubble style that was essentially made so that racers' helmets, would clear it with a roll cage and all that stuff. And a lot of guys put them on their Scorpions and Montecarlos, and they look okay. It seems to me that it really does look appropriate on a rally replica or the real thing. I wanted to create a roof panel that didn't have those bumps, the little double bubble roof panel bumps, sitting proud of the roof line. I met a number of great guys, and through the 914 forums, this guy up north, his name is Chris, and he has a workshop, and he was kind enough to invite me, along with a number of 914 Porsche enthusiasts, up to his place for the weekend. And he has like English wheels and basically all the metal panel forming stuff, and he is doing an extraordinary job modifying. He's resto modding his 914 with like a big V8 engine, and he's doing a lot of very artful fabrication and craftsmanship on that. I'll send you a link. I'll include a link to his build at the end of this, just because it is something to see. So I brought up a couple of pieces of sheet steel so that I could kind of try to form into sort of a rough dome. Wasn't able to bring the car up there, so I just made some quick measurements. And when I got there, he was like, "Hey, the guy that I took a class from was kind enough to give me some roof panel pieces that were just like practice pieces that the students in the class were working on, and he gave me like 3 pieces, and one of them turns out to be almost perfect. It's got almost the perfect curve side to side and front to back, and so I'll bring the camera in and give you guys a little bit closer view of that, but that gets me really close to what I need to do as far as making a roof panel. Yeah, and with the rest of it, one of the things that I've been playing with is making some Naca ducts, Naca ducts. I'm going to put in the X19 air intake ducts, typically where they were mounted on the Fiat X19, but I need to get rid of this fuel filler cap hole, and I could just, I guess, cut it out and plug it up with a piece of metal and just have it be one straight contiguous piece. But this is a 1970s Italian car, so the plan is to make some Naca ducts to, just add more pressure to the engine, and because 1970s Italian car. So that is what we are going to tackle today, is cutting out the sheet metal for these ducts and trying to get these templates that I made on these clear transfer sheets properly placed. Anyway, let's jump to it now. Also, in pursuit of changing out the roof line and working on the roof panel, I gutted a lot of the interior and all the wiring harness to do that, and I got a steering wheel. I couldn't help it. It was an old period 70s steering wheel, and it was I think it was like set up on a Fiat X19. All right, so that's the new steering wheel. It's a little bit chunkier, a little bit grabbier, and a little bit prettier than the original one. And so yeah, I pulled out all the dashboard and attendant stuff, and yeah, I've been goofing around with that. There's the engine still barging into the passenger compartment. I have put in seats to see how far it will sit as far as clearance goes, and I have plenty of room for that. So yeah, but here is the roof panel. You can see where the transparency was sitting. There's some flash rust on it. Never really had to worry about that in Colorado, but out here in California it is a thing. But you can see how well that follows the roof line of the Scorpion. It needs a little bit of tweaking here and there, but still, it is pretty darn diddly close. And it's going to allow me to create a nice, strong structure for that. It is going to be a removable roof panel, but it's going to be made of steel, so we'll see how many times I want to remove that. I might make it later in, fiberglass or carbon fiber or whatever when I get to that point. But for right now, it's a good thing. And just because, I'll just show like another view of this wonderful car from behind as I try not to trip on anything with that rear differential kind of just sticking out, or the back end of the transmission. All right, so, and here are the Naca duct diagrams. They're just a hair different from each other. Spent a lot of time online looking up and researching Naca ducts for the proper profiles and patterns, and kind of what angle you want to have them come into the bodywork at for best, efficiency. Because I don't want them to just be for show. I think they look cool, but I also want them to be functional. So let's move on from that. All right, so here we are. Yeah, I have stenciled the Naca ducts, whatever you want to call them, onto the sheet metal of the car. I'm going to probably use a Dremel to kind of cut these out, just because I want to maintain the the careful curves and everything like that, and it can be a little tricky doing curved shapes with an angle grinder with a cut wheel. What I also am going to do is cut open the waist of the car, the hips, flanks, whatever, fender. It's a fender. No. For these air intakes. Another wonderful use of transparencies is that once you make it to the specifications that you need, they're absolutely easily reversible and transferable onto the other side of the car. So that is just one of the other bonuses about trying to make parts that are symmetrical. And also making this pattern for this was very easy too, because I was able to trace kind of the outside outline very easily, and it works out nice. And they don't get wet, and if they do get wet, no, they do get wet, they can get wet, but they don't fall apart like cardboard can. Alright, so I will be cutting this piece of panel out using a cut wheel on an angle grinder. This is one of the reasons why I kind of hold on to my little tiny discs, is for controlled work like this. If you have a big wheel on on an angle grinder, and you try to work in close to do some really tight work, if it binds between the metal and the groove, there's enough torque with the bigger wheel to really fling the tool off its line that you want, and you can cause a mess and end up cutting or scarring stuff that you don't want to scar. Well, you get the idea. Okay, alright, so after 5, 6 Dremel discs, those things are like tissues. You just go through them. Cut this out, and this is the old fuel filler door, yeah, I'm going to move this up front and close this back little half moon crescent shape off, and then build the rest of the duct out of sheet metal. Yeah, so now we just have to do the other side. Come in here and take a close look and see it. See, we got a nice big opening there into the engine bay for fresh air, and down here we've got some various holes also, and we've got lots of mouse, squirrel, or rat poop and leaves and stuff in the bottom. And this will make that easier to get that crap out of there too, literally. Okay, so I have cut all the vents and air ducts into the car body. Yeah, it was a little bit of work. It was just basically a baby step this time around. You know, I said in these Fiat X19 vents, I'll kind of get you a close up on those, and it was interesting to see all the stuff inside the fender wells. I knew I needed to get in there. I tried to vacuum out this side, but I wasn't able to because it's just a little bit different because of the fuel filler door and all that stuff. So now that all that is cleaned out and opened up, cut out and opened up, I can get in there with the shop vac and suck out all the squirrel and whatever it is, 40 plus years of detritus that has built up inside this poor little car. I think it's going to look pretty awesome. It looks really weird still set up high on its suspension, but when everything is lowered, I think everything is going to come together on this. Yeah, so why don't we do some close-ups of the work? We can get you some different angles going on. All right. It's getting a little dark in the afternoon here, but yeah, you can kind of get an idea of what I was aiming for. We got some guys setting up for a Christmas party across the street. Quiet as a mouse. That's a little bit of tape over the fuel filler door. That's kind of the little semicircle that I have to fill in. Yeah, I think it's going to look all right. It's about the right size for what I want it for. Here is the other side. Matching ducts left and right. Yeah, I'm starting to really lose the light here. Overall, I think it's going to be a good addition to bringing some good air into that engine bay. Also, I am going to position the air intake basically right on the other side in the fender well of where this X19 duct will feed into, so it will have clean, fresh air and not be, sucking in hot engine bay air on hot days and stuff. So, yeah, don't know that this was like an earth-shattering episode. It was just, something to get my feet wet again and make some progress on this car. I'll give you a last little view of that awesome engine in situ. Everything is starting to get a little bit rusty now from just being out in California, but it's okay. I will get some primer. There. Trying to hold a camera and do this stuff is probably not advisable. Anyway, thank you for coming along on this little episode. Hope it was informative. If you guys are curious about any more of the motorcycle stuff I do, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, I guess like it if you like it. Don't like it. Thumbs down it if you don't like what I'm doing. Let me know. And I guess if you give a shit, subscribe. I don't know that I really give a shit, but hey, we're all welcome to this. Our own opinions on YouTube. And yeah, and one of the things, in just staying motivated with any super long project, like what I'm doing here, or this feature film that I've done, you need to take inspiration from outside sources. Oftentimes, things that other inspiring people have said. One that really just kind of stands out to me. I think it's absolutely awesome. I think it's like no fooling, the earliest recorded audio on the planet. It's of Giacomo Puccini, and as after I finish talking to you here, I'll let it roll. I found it on the internet, and I just thought, it inspires me, so maybe it would inspire you too. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Buongiorno. I am Giacomo Puccini. Take off your clothes.